Okay, welcome back. So Bill Griffith again, and my first video I showed Orchestrate calling BAW and placing orders. It acts as a virtual cicerone from some PDF menus that have been downloaded and uploaded into Orchestrate, and I build the agent from scratch in part 2, and now in part 3 I'm going to send the order details, so the beer and the food item, the price, and all the details from the PDF that the AI agent extracted out automatically, no programming, and then sends it to Business Automation Workflow to orchestrate the team, the overall longer running process and orchestrating the team. Watsonx Orchestrate is great for sort of orchestrating an individual's daily work, but often one needs to orchestrate teams of people and across departments and things like that. And so Business Automation Workflow is great for that. Processes that might span weeks, months, even years. Business Automation Workflow can do that, and it manages the state and saves stuff in databases and all that jazz for you. So the combination of the two is really powerful. So let's do that. So okay, so that's the gist of how to build the model, the agent, and then let me show how I connect with Business Automation Workflow. The other thing I need to do is add a tool. And in here, you could point to an MCP server, other catalogs, but I'm going to pull in my BAW OpenAI. So if I go to my BAW system here, you'll see here's my process, here's my food order process, the definition, where's my flow. So this is sort of the flow. Whoa, that's too much. Let me go zoom in. Right, so that's the process flow. I can then create a service, which not a service, a exposed automation service. It's called the REST service. I do that here. I then export that. It just calls that food process, and then I take that OpenAI specification and import it into here. Now let me get that file. Okay, so back over here in my Business Automation, I go to my exposed service. And pretty easy to create these. You just say create a RESTful service, and I call it foo, right? And I do finish, and then in here I specify what system I'm trying to interact with, what's the process. I call this something, and I can choose the implementation. In this case, it's this process, right? And then I would call this something like, place order, and then I describe it. Okay, so I already did that, so let me not do this one. So this is the exposed service here. That's the place order, and you see it automatically creates this OpenAI spec. So I can just right-click and save this. Save as. So then I can just save this. And I probably wouldn't call it docs. Maybe I'd call it CP4BA place order. V2 or something. So now it placed it. I go here. Now one thing is Orchestrate has a challenge with circular references in BAW. So in here there is a circular reference right here. So you'll see that place food order is referring to place food order exception. So this place food order exception definition is also referring to place food order definition. So that's a circular reference, and that causes a challenge. So I'm going to delete that, and then I can save it, and then I can import it in. So I drop that in here. And let me sort of show you what that is. This is important when you define your model here. Open with text edit. You'll see that I have descriptions. What is this service, place order? This becomes the prompt. I also describe the fields. So what are the payloads? First name, last name. This is important when I'm building this so that the agent knows how to map the information from Orchestrate into the agent, right? And that's done over here. When I create this, I create the process, I go to food process, I go to my variables, I go to an order, and now I drill into the data definition of that order, and I specify what this is. I specify the order number, and I use documentation to describe things. So I say first name, this is customer's first name, this is the order, this is the status. These documentation fields are very helpful to help the Orchestrate know how to map to these things. So, okay, so I go back over here and I drag that in, and then I do next, and then I will need to describe this connection. I'll show you how this is done. I'm actually using the Zen API key and call it a basic API key. So I want that connection. I'll show you how that's done in a second. Okay, so now I need to go in and fix the connection. So I go in to manage my connections, and I can go in here and see place. That's my place order. So I deleted the connection. So this is the, I deleted the credentials. It's a key value pair. So I'm going to go into that, and I need to pass in the key value pair. Now to do that, I need the Zen API key per BAW, right? So to do that, I need print F. This is going to base 64 encode it. My username, colon, my API key. I got to get the API key over here. I click my user here. I do my profile here. And this is in the doc. And then I say create an API key, generate an API key. That's okay. And then I'm going to not show it, but I'm going to copy it. So I copy that API key. Then in BAW, or if you're on Mac, you can do this command. You can do print, and that's going to be what I'm going to paste, that API key there. That's going to produce something like this. I'm going to pass that in with this. I'm going to pass in, this is my key definition right here. This is going to be authorization. And then over here, I've got to be Zen API key. Let me see if I did that correctly. Yeah, Zen API key. Let me make sure that the docs say that that's correct. It's called Zen API key. It's a capital K. Try to get cases correct. And I mistyped it. API key. And then I need to do space. And doesn't want to do a space. I have to paste it, and then I'll go back and put the space in. But as you see here, it's looking for the space. And this is the encoded base 64 of my username and that API key that I just pasted above. So let me paste that in. And then, in fact, for definitions here, let me pause here. Okay, so if I'm on a Windows system, then I'm just going to go into my Cloud Pak for Business Automation, OpenShift, and then I'll just go in here to one of these pods. There's a pod here. I'm in my project CP4BA, and I'm going to search on BA Studio. You see one that's running here. I drill into that. I go to the terminal. I can now do that Zen API key here, this thing. Right? So I can, in fact, I can just do this. I think. Let's try. Right, so it produces something. Now in this case, it's saying my username is username and this is my API key. That's not correct. It would normally be something like, let me do this again. It would normally be something like admin, and then here would be that key that I copied above. You know, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 all that other stuff that I copied over here. And then when I produce it, it's going to encode it, and this is going to be my API key that I'm going to pass in over here with the space. So I do paste, well, I pasted the wrong thing. I go here, I'm going to copy this, right click, copy, back over here to this, and I'm going to do paste. So now you see that, and you see that it's got too much, but I got space. Make sure you get the space. And that's what you need to call the BAW. And then I save it. Let me hide it so I can get this pasted in. Okay, and then I save my changes. So now I have my development system set up. So then when I go over here, it will know how to send it. Otherwise, you'll get an exception. So I'm just going to choose that one that I already have pre-built. Okay, so now it's added that tool. Let me check my cheat sheet here if I have any additional information that I need to type in here. Okay, I don't think so. I think that's good. Now what I want to do is now it should be able to call into BAW. You see here when I say show reasoning, it sees the menu and it pulled from the query greater than that. It pulled from the body of the PDF and the title of the PDF, right? You see sort of how it deduced what to do, and it pulled those various choices in, and then it styled it and displayed it here. But it's not placing the order. It's not asking to place the order because it didn't know how until now. I've added a new tool that is the place order that's in BAW as I was showing over here. Okay, so now I'm going to tell the Cicerone app or agent to, with this tool, I'm going to tell it to ask for the customer name and the table. So once the customer has selected food for their order, ask the customer for their table and customer's order. This will ask and prompt the user for this information so we can pass it to BAW with that information. So by saving that, now when I go in and say, you know, do you recommend any dark beers? I save that. Now it knows to call BAW. So I can say, it knows to ask for the first name, last name, and the table number for that order. So I say, what food goes with Roquefort 8? So it's saying fish and chips. So let's say I'll take the fish and chips and the Roquefort 8. And now you see, because I told it that I need the table name, table number, and the first and last name, then I'll say, you know, name is Bill Griffith, and I'm sitting at table 33. So in this case, it looks like I have a, yeah, so now you get a problem with this if you have errors on your status. API key is expired, so you got to get the right API key set up. It looks like I did a typo or something there, and I'll show. But anyway, you get that set up correctly, and then it'll pass through. Okay, so after correcting my API key, I copied in from the Zen doc what I was describing there. Then I got the right API key, and then I said, yeah, I want fish and chips. I want the Roquefort, and then my name, and I'm sitting at table 33. And so now you'll see that it populated first name, last name, description. It populated those details for me, including table 33. So I didn't have to go do the mapping. It did that automatically for me. And if I go over to BAW, so now I'm in BAW and I use my little inspector here, and you'll see that there's that new order the top, and if I expand it, it should be table 33. Yep, and it's, can I stretch that over? Fish and chips and the Roquefort 8 beer. So that's good. There's the data. I can claim it. That's sort of what it looks like in the user interface. This user interface is just the fields. I didn't do any kind of styling of the page or any of that stuff. As you saw in my previous video, I made this look really nice. All of the BAW has this nice HTML types of fields and whatnot. But you see it pulled all that stuff in. I didn't have to sort of pre-build it. And then I can move it along, and it now will bump to the next stage for me. So there you have it. Now I can say, do you have any dark beers? And it says yes. Now I'm in sort of the development environment where I'm testing it. I can, of course, deploy this, and I'm just going to deploy it there. Let me deploy it to the built-in sort of runtime environment. So now it's deploying it. So then you don't have to see this sort of sidebar here. And I may have multiple versions. I'd have a development environment, I have production environment, things like that. And then I go back over successfully. I don't need to do agent monitoring. Then I go up here to the top, and now you'll see there's my flying saucer environment. So now I'm in sort of, and if you're not the admin, you won't see these types of things. Although these are really handy if you are an admin, because you can drill in and see, you can see the analyze, you can drill in and see the calls and failed messages and sort of all the other analytics on managing it, the connections, grant access, and analyze the statistics of the invocations. I don't know if I have anything here in the previous dates. Yeah, you'll see here, I can drill back on different dates and choose yeah, so you'll see here's the agents, the live, latency, mail, failed messages, etc. Okay, so I'm back over here, and I'm on this, and then I say, you know, help me choose a beer. And so I say, sure, well, what kind of beer do you want? I want a pale ale. So it's saying, cool, well, on the menu at the Flying Saucer, we have the Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, the Dogfish Head, so IPA. So I'm going to say, what food goes well with the IPA? So fish tacos, sounds good. I'll take the fish tacos and the Dogfish IPA. Thinking through, and now it sent the order to BAW. You see here, because so now it knows how to fill out that order details. Remember, that's from here, the order details. That's from that OpenAI spec. So it knows how to fill this out and does the totals for me. And I didn't have to do the mapping. Just by the definition, it knows item price, item quantity, line item total, right? I have here, line item total, item quantity, item description. So if I go over here, there should be a new one. Let me do refresh. Yeah, there it is, this new one where I should have ordered the fish tacos, right? Place the order. There's the data definitions all been filled out. It did the auto multiple line items. There's the blackened fish tacos. And what I get? IPA, Dogfish IPA. So it filled it out. And so in this case, let me go back over to my process portal, sort of the end user interface. This here is sort of the development environment where I can look at the code and the process, and then the process portal is sort of the end user interface. So let me go find that one. Let me refresh the page. So where are my processes or work? That's the previous one. I may have to bump it forward. Let me go back here to this, and I'm going to claim it, claim the task. So now it's got that order, it's got some information. I say order up, so the order's placed. It should then move it forward. Let me see if my process flow now moves it forward. Right, so this is the new one at this time. I go here, I can do view the process diagram. And now it prepared it and moved it here to delivery. So it's moved it along. Okay, so a couple of things. You will need your OpenShift to be HTTPS. So you need to have a valid certificate, or Watsonx Orchestrate will have a problem with that. So I'll show how that's done. For my development server, I'm just using a bare metal server on the IBM Cloud, and then I use virtualization within Red Hat Enterprise Linux to split up the physical bare metal server into multiple virtual servers. I'm actually doing 2501, but same concept here. And it's just a bare metal server, like a Xeon 42. I think I'm using a 5210, and then I use NFS, just using a solid state drive that's part of that bare metal server, and then I split up the worker nodes and all of that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's IBM Public Cloud. You just see bare metal server. In this case, this is Dallas. I don't really need 96 cores, not for development. I could just do previous generation, and I do the 52. And even that's 32 is not really necessary. I can go, yeah, so we can go with that, or, let's say this one. This is fine. So I choose this. This, of course, is retail price. If you, purchase through a business partner or something like that, you can get, buy in bulk and buy volume, and you can get some discounts off of the retail price here. But anyway, this is an idea. So now I will need a little bit more memory. I think I went with 384. I think you need about 256 gigs of RAM for the full Cloud Pak for Business Automation in a development environment. This is sort of like single node install. But anyway, I do this, and I just use Red Hat. This is bare metal. I choose Red Hat. I had another couple disks, and then I have a public address and a private address. Now, normally, you shouldn't put servers like this on the public network address. So you'll definitely want to do firewalls. So that's what I'm doing here. I sort of have a virtual server in front, and it's got security groups and firewalls, and then traffic comes in through the public IP address, and then it routes to the back end, and then I can VPN in to get to the private network and do things like that. Now, and here's sort of that bare metal server, and you see, here's my hardware details. I think I've got, let's see. Yeah, some of the infrastructure, Xeon 5218, and then you can see within here I can have virtual machines, workers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So that's that. And then when I install it, so I take the bare metal server, and then I use, let's see here, Red Hat cluster, what's it called? Assisted cluster install. Assisted cluster install. So I just use this. There's a nice little video out here. This guy, he does a pretty good one. Bare metal assisted, very easy. So I just do that. I do set up
assisted installer.
I set up
The OpenShift
DNS on that as per my diagram. Where'd my diagram go? Right, so I set up DNS. I use bind. I use DHCP, all part of Red Hat. And then I use, I just use the IP tables to route. And then HA proxy, software-based, for my load balancer. In this case, it's just routing here. But anyway, I go through this. This builds out the cluster. When I get finished, I have a cluster like this. Then I set up NFS, and then I use the Apollo automation. This is for development, but it will automatically install. It takes about 6 or 7 hours, but it's running through a bunch of Ansible scripts, and it's building out the whole stack, so I don't have to go through command line and a whole bunch of sort of custom configuration that Business Automation has, which is good if I want that level of customization. but this does some default stuff like OpenLDAP and Postgres for the database and some things that you may not want in production. This also is not highly available. This is not the supported approach, but this is great for development. It's fast and it's quick and easy, and so this is what I use. And then you'll see, my physical machine has 20 or 30 cores, but when I go in here, it thinks it's got 156. That's because I virtualized that bare metal server, and here's my 340 gigs of RAM. So, and then whenever I install through that Apollo, then it gives me Cloud Pak for Business Automation, and that's what I use, which is here. Now you'll note that I do have a signed certificate. So I go in and look at this certificate. Certificate is valid. So I'm using LetsEncrypt, and then I use the wildcard with my DNS name. I get the DNS from Cloudflare, and then I use LetsEncrypt to sign it. So the way that I do that is no, not just that doc. I do use this, but before I get this, I use DNS challenge. So where is that? Right, so I use this to set up the DNS and put a token within Cloudflare on my DNS, do the Let's Encrypt. This is good, a little bit more complicated, but I start with all of this. I go through this stuff, set up my DNS, get my API token, this kind of stuff. This gives me a self-signed, it replaces the self-signed certificate with a Let's Encrypt certificate. And then for the, I don't do split DNS, but that's where I set that up. And then I use this other one. This one's a lot easier to follow. And I don't use the Acme, but I take the certificates and then I install them with this command, and that works. So that gives me a certified instance here. So whenever I call it from Watsonx Orchestrate, then I'm good to go. Otherwise, you might have a problem. So. Okay, so there you have it. Starting from scratch, I did a demo of Orchestrate calling BAW, built an agent, a Cicerone Beer virtual agent in Orchestrate, and then I sent orders to BAW, auto mapping done automatically through large language models, Gen AI features. I did not do ADS. Maybe I'll do another video where I actually create rules. Like I can have specials like Easter special, or I could have a St. Patty's Day special where I offer discounts on Irish beers. And so by putting those rules out here in ADS, then I have the ability to sort of decouple them. And I could have other apps that use those same rules. I could try to do it in large language, but in many cases I want this to be precise. Maybe I offer military discounts and St. Patty's Day, and so I want to have many different rules decoupled from each other and sort of the aggregation of those rules. So rules engines are very powerful for that, and Cloud Pak for Business Automation includes that capability. So it's pretty easy, same as I did over here in BAW. I just create an ADS project. I then export the OpenAI spec, and then import it into Watsonx Orchestrate. And then the agent in here can call these other tools to offer discounts after it uses the sort of default prices here. But at any rate, hopefully this has been helpful. Reach out to your IBMer if you want to see how to build this out yourself, or if you're interested in Orchestrate for enterprise orchestration and driving productivity for your organization. Thanks for watching.